Hey guys, so today we're going to take a look at two popular .45 caliber pistols. I have in my hand the FNP45, and here on this vest that I'm wearing, which is the US Palm ballistic vest we'll talk a little bit about in a future video. Here on the vest I'm actually carrying an Hk45, which is HK's new .45 caliber offering. So today we're going to take a closer look at these two pistols, compare their features, talk about how they shoot side by side, and then give you a kind of a final opinion at the end of the video. Let's get started. So first up, let's take a look at the FNP45. Now, the FNP45 is a polymer framed pistol that has ambidextrous controls. And by that I mean I have both the slide stop, the safety, and the magazine release on both sides of the pistol. Now, being polymer framed, it also has a replaceable back strap on the rear, which is kind of common right now in many of the newer polymer framed handguns. This handgun also has a 1913 style rail for lights and other accessories. The handgun also has a 3-dot sight arrangement. Now, these sights are not adjustable for elevation, they're drift adjustable for windage. This handgun is a double action handgun, so it transitions between double action and single action. Just make sure that the weapon's clear here quickly, has no magazine. I can fire the first round double action, the hammer's down, pull the trigger, it fires, the weapon would cycle, hammer stays to the rear, next shot is semi-automatic but also single action. So that's kind of a neat feature. Now, I'm not necessarily a fan of double action pistols, but the double action on this pistol isn't too bad. I've actually become quite used to it. You can see some of my other videos where I've gotten pretty good at drawing the weapon from the holster double action and engaging targets at combat distances. Now, this pistol also has a couple of different magazine options. We have a 14-round magazine here that comes standard with the handgun, and we have a 15-round magazine that's optional. If you buy the shooter's pack, which I did, this handgun will come with a holster, a magazine pouch, and a couple of extra magazines that will include one of these 15-round magazines. The FNP Tactical, which is another variant of this handgun, which has a threaded barrel, suppressor height sights, some other features, actually comes standard with these 15-round magazines. So next, let's take a look at the Hk45. All right, so next up is the Hk45. Now, the Hk45 has an interesting history behind it. This handgun was actually submitted to the government for trials against the M9 pistol, replace it in service. The Joint Combat Pistol Program was initiated in 2005, between 2005 and 2006, and this handgun competed against the M9. As we all know, the M9 remains in service, so this handgun, nor any other handgun, was adopted. Another interesting bit of history behind this handgun is obviously it was designed by HK, but it also had the input of Larry Vickers and Ken Hackthorne, both big names in the shooting community and known for being very well-known operators. Now, this handgun has a polymer lower, and it has adjustable, or I should say user-replaceable, inserts in the rear. The handgun also has a 10-shot magazine versus the 15 or 14-shot magazine of the FNP45. Now, also this polymer-lowered handgun has a 1913 style rail, just like the FNP, which is the same size, so it can use the same accessories. The handgun also has a 3-dot sight arrangement, so the rear sight is adjustable for windage, not elevation, and the front sight is also adjustable for windage. It has green dots or inserts in the sights versus the white dots that we're kind of used to. But they are easy to pick up and they're pretty nice. The handgun is completely ambidextrous. This does have a slightly different variant, the one that I'm holding. There are various different variants of the Hk45 available. This one lacks a safety lever on the right-hand side. It is present on the left-hand side for right-handed shooters, but you can get the handgun with the safety on the right-hand side. It has a slide stop on both sides of the handgun, and the magazine release is on both sides of the handgun. The magazine release is a little bit different. You actually push it down versus pushing a button in to release the magazine, but you can do it from either side of the pistol with your thumb. The handgun is a double action handgun, so the first shot can be double action, or optionally it can be single action as well. The handgun has a hammer drop safety, so if you do cock the handgun, you just pull this safety down and it safely drops that hammer on a live round. You can also cock the gun and leave it with the safety on, and you can carry it like a 1911, what we call cocked and locked. The first shot is double action, and then after that, the weapon cycles, the hammer stays to the rear, and it becomes a single action handgun. Like the FNP45, you can actually engage this safety and manipulate the slide, leaving the weapon in the safe position, but going straight to the cocked and locked carry, or again, hammer drop. I really enjoy shooting the FNP45. It's actually one of my favorite .45 caliber pistols. Now, this is a big handgun. If you take a look at this grip, It's hand filling. Now I do have the flat grip insert. There is another one available that creates a little bit bigger of a hump. It's a little bit more hand filling, but trust me when I say this is a big handgun. The grip's very big. If you have small hands, you might not actually like the grip of this handgun. I have some big hands. It fits me very nicely. I found that this handgun's pretty handy to use. Even though it's big, it's relatively light. Because of the polymer frame, it's not a real heavy handgun. Now you put 14 or 15 rounds in it, it starts to get a little bit hefty, especially if you're using 230 grain ball. But by itself, the handgun weighs right in around 2 pounds. The sights on the handgun are great. They're easy to pick up. I found them to be easy to use. And I've also found the handgun to be pretty accurate. I've been able to shoot some nice small groups with this little handgun. The trigger on it's not bad. It has a nice short reset. You don't have to let the trigger out very far when you're shooting it in single action. Overall, I would say that the handgun, on a scale of 0 to 10, I'd say that it's probably about an 8 in terms of shootability. The only gripes I have against it, some folks might find it just a little bit big. And even in my hands, like I said, it's a little bit big, but I've been able to master it. Now the handgun in a holster is pretty good size. Now, I'm a big guy. If you live in a state that doesn't have a law against printing, you know, if I can cover this up, it might print a little bit, it'll push out the back on my cover garment. But if you don't have a law against it, you can carry it concealed. I do. My state, they don't care. If you're trying to do deep concealment, the handgun probably isn't your best choice. It's pretty thick. The slide on it's pretty wide. The grip on it's pretty wide. And most of that's to accommodate that 14 to 15 rounds that it carries. So next up, let's take a look at the Hk45 and see how it compares to this FNP. The Hk45 is a nice shooting handgun. It's a little bit more narrow than the FNP. The grip, as you can see, it's quite a bit more narrow. I would say it's a more ergonomic grip. I really like the way it feels. The recoil on this handgun, I would say, is a little bit less than the FNP. But this narrow grip and the grip that you have on it is possible because you sacrifice 4 or 5 rounds. This only holds 10 rounds. The FNP has 14 or 15 rounds available. Some people might trade ergonomics for 4 or 5 rounds, but in my opinion, 4 or 5 rounds, that's a lot of ammunition, especially in a 45. That's a trade-off I don't know that I'm really ready to make. Other than that, the sights on this handgun are very easy to pick up. I love the grip angle, the way that it points. It's just a plain, comfortable handgun to shoot. Again, you can shoot very nice groups with it. The trigger, maybe just a little bit heavier than the FNP 45, but the short release for the reset is about the same. The handgun, you can do double taps with it very easily. And again, I found it to be a very accurate and easy to shoot handgun. It's also about the same size as the FNP in terms of holsters. The muzzle's just a little bit longer, but the overall dimensions, side by side, you can see that the FNP is just a little bit fatter. The Hk45 is also a little bit lighter than the FNP 45. The Hk45 dry weighs about 1 pound 15 ounces, I believe it is. We'll check that when we get back in studio. I'll post some pictures in this video. But it is lighter than the FNP 45, and it's also lighter loaded simply because, again, it's missing 4 or 5 rounds. But overall, I really like the handling and the shootability of this handgun. Let's see what the handguns do over the chronograph. Let's see if this polygonal rifling of this handgun gives it any higher velocity or any noticeably higher velocity than the button rifling of the FNP. .764. .774. .776. All right, so we fired 5 rounds of the Hk45. It looks like we have an average muzzle velocity of 775.5 feet per second. So we are seeing a very slight advantage with this polygonal rifling. It's launching those 230 grain ball rounds. So it's slightly faster than the FNP is. Is it enough to make a difference? I'll let you guys decide. All right, so in the end, I'm gonna have to pick one of these handguns to recommend, and there are a number of different factors in trying to determine which one of these handguns works best for me. Now, what I tell you guys that I pick might not necessarily be what you would pick. It's all subjective. But all things being equal, you know, I'm comparing the ergonomics, the magazine capacity, and the price. Now, let's talk a little bit about the price of these two handguns. The Hk45 comes to market at about $950. Some dealers are selling them as high as $1,000. That's one very expensive .45 caliber handgun. The FNP45, on the other hand, retails, you can find them online, in the $625 range. So there's a substantial savings between the FNP45 and the Hk45. Now, earlier I rated the FNP45 as an 8 out of 10 in ergonomics, or shootability. The Hk45, I would say, is maybe an 8.5, maybe a 9 out of 10. And I say that simply because the ergonomics of the Hk45, in my opinion, are just a little bit better, a little bit more universal as well. The grip is a little bit more narrow, and it definitely feels a little bit better in my hand. Not vastly better, just a little bit better. When it comes down to shooting though, I shoot both of these handguns equally well. So that I can't really say is a determining factor. The price is a big factor in my mind, and also the Hk45 only holds 10 rounds, and the FNP45 holds as many as 15 rounds depending on which magazine that you put in the handgun. In the end, the FNP45 is a handgun I would choose for my use. And I choose it mostly because it's $650. It's substantially less expensive than the Hk45. Shootability, I find the two handguns to be very comparable in how I shoot them. But this handgun holds 15 rounds. And to me, in a gunfight, having those extra rounds can be beneficial. You know, some people may not weigh that as heavily. 10 rounds is a lot of ammunition for a .45, especially when you're used to 7 or 8 rounds of a 1911. But 15 rounds in a .45 is hard to beat in my opinion. So in the end, I think that the FNP45 is the handgun that I would pick. Now, if you have any questions about these two handguns, feel free to post those questions to our YouTube channel, or you can also reach us on Facebook, and that's probably the best way to reach us here at the Military Arms channel, and that's www.facebook.com/Military Arms. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hey everybody, so you've probably seen us wearing these Military Arms channel shirts, and in the future we're going to make these shirts available in a video doing a contest. These shirts are super high quality, they're 100% cotton, they're St. John's Bay shirts, and we have the embroidery work done by a local vendor. These are a $30 value. Stay tuned, keep watching our videos, and we'll announce the contest where you can win one of these shirts for free. We'll ship it to you. We only have large and extra large sizes. Also in the future, if you're interested in these shirts, you'd like to buy one, feel free to shoot me an email at tim@military-arms.com. I'll look forward to hearing from you guys. Keep watching.